I'm going to do my best to share what I've learned over many years and thousands of hours of listening to clients, counseling. So the first thing is, listening is really different than just hearing the words. Listening is about doing our best to pay full attention to somebody else. To pay full attention means to attend to their needs as a human being. Their needs to have companionship and witness in their lives, to have someone, and hopefully more than one person, who really pays attention to who they are and how their life is and what their experience is, and maybe on a really even deeper level, what their soul, that essence of them, what is their soul up to? What are their deepest longings as a person, and how's it going? Is it going great? Would they like to be able to really celebrate that? Are some things really, really hard and they really need to be attended to? That's what real listening is. It's attending to another person's needs, to be seen and heard and understood and witnessed without having to say very much at all, is something that helps people feel like they belong to someone or some group, that they belong. So that's the point. And so how do we do that well? Well, one thing is, the researchers tell us that most people speak, when they're speaking kind of freely, conversing, at about 150 words per minute. Our brains have the capacity to take in and understand at 450 words per minute. So that means even if they are at 150 and we can process at 450, that we've got all this excess capacity going on in our heads. For better or worse, we could hear every single word they said and still be looking at our cell phone and maybe making a list in our heads of, or on paper, of what we need to get at the grocery store, without being thoughtful and conscious of that. Our brains can actually be paying more attention to other people or other situations, or just what's going on in our head, maybe paying more attention to that than we are to the person we're imagining we're listening to. And we are listening to their words, but we're not listening to their soul if most of what we're doing is paying attention to other stuff that's going on in our head. We could call it chatter. It's not necessarily derogatory. It's just background thinking in words. So the other thing that researchers tell us is that a full in-person communication, if you get the full communication, is only 7% words. So if you're not using that other 300 words per minute that you have, all you're doing is hearing the words. You're only getting 7% of their communication. That the rest of the communication comes through the voice, the tone and quality and speed or hesitancy of the voice, which is about 38% of communication. And then the rest of it is in body language. And so if we're not actually looking at the whole person and we're not paying attention to what's their voice, what is that voice, what's that sound like, and all we're doing is thinking we're listening because we've got every word they're saying. Or if we're looking at other things rather than maybe they're all tight and hunched up and their face is showing distress, but we're not paying attention to those things. We're just hearing the words. We could honestly say, I hear you, and not be getting most of the communication. Whereas, say you stopped on the side of the road, somebody had just gotten rear-ended and they were standing by their car. And you could say, are you all right? And they could say, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And you can tell because of the look on their face and their body language and the tone of their voice that those words, I'm fine, are not what they really are communicating or need to communicate. What they need to communicate is something way bigger than I'm fine. So you might say in that situation, well, I got to tell you, I wouldn't be fine if I'd just gotten rear-ended. And then the person might relax a little and go, oh yeah, it was really scary. How different it is to offer that sort of full understanding of what they might be through, to let them know that it's okay with you, that if you were in their shoes, you would not be fine. And then they relax a little bit and open up and start to express more of what their whole experience is. And then you might say, oh, and you're really young, were you on your way to school? And they might say, no, I was on my way to my first day of my job. And then you could say, wow, have you been able to call your employer? Do you want me to call? And they could go, oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, would you call them? And then, all this rich sort of caring interaction can happen that wouldn't happen if you just looked at them and said, okay, well, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm waiting for the state patrol to come, And why not? If you cared enough to stop, you could care enough to actually notice that what their words are is not their actual communication. So it's really important that we realize that the words that people are saying or the words that people are texting represent such a small part of what their actual communication, if you were in person, if you could see their face, if you could hear their voice, if you could notice their body language, there's so much more they're trying to communicate. They might communicate really angry words, but if you looked at them, you could see that they were really scared, or they wouldn't look at you and you could see that they were really feeling ashamed maybe. And then you wouldn't take it so personally. And you could just say, you're really upset. I'm getting that. You're really upset. I am really upset. Yeah. I am really upset. And then they relax and open up a little more. And so then something more happens. But in an angry text, all we get is 7% of what we might be able to get if we were in person and paying really good attention. So to really attend to another person and another person's soul, we have to first notice I've got 300 words per minute going on in my brain doing something. I can be making a shopping list and still hear every word, but that's not really attending. I can be making up stories about what their words mean with regard to me, that it's my fault. I can be completely caught in my own stories about them. Or I can be trying to fix things really quick because I'm actually feeling very anxious, but that's not attending to them. And so the first thing that people can do to become way better listeners is just to graciously notice oneself and what we do habitually with that 300 words per minute. And then to start asking, well, what if I pay attention? What would I do with that 300 words per minute to really attend to this person? Well, I could notice their facial expression, their body language, their voice. I could notice and be registering, oh, they're saying they're scared, but they're actually pretty clear about something they want. That's interesting. So if I just listened to the words, all I'd get was that they were scared. But if I listen and look at their body language, it's like maybe what they're scared of is really saying what they know, rather than they're scared they can't do the work or the situation or whatever. We can just listen for that and notice it. And then, so there's that. And then there's also what's going on in my head that is actually attending to myself rather than to this other person. Again, we can be really generous with ourselves. This is what most of us do most of the time in our interactions with people. We attend, maybe with half of what we've got. So we take 150 words that they're saying per minute, and we add 50 words sort of thinking about what they're saying. But then we've also got another 200 words per minute that's attending to us. And that may not be the best thing to do when we're actually trying to forge a closer and safer and more caring relationship, because we know that will be good for both of us. So the more words per minute that we use to attend to the other, the more they're going to feel that, the more relaxed they're going to become. And then the more they may be able to actually articulate clearly, both for themselves, but also so that they can be deeply understood. And the better the process, and the better the more fulfilling for the listener, and the more affirming for the speaker. The homework would be start noticing. Start noticing what your 300 words per minute is doing inside your own head when you're believing you're listening to another person. And what are you missing? Because all you're listening to is the words. And you're not listening to all the other information that you could get from actually being attentive. And then what does that communicate to the other person if you're not really paying attention with your whole heart? Okay, so homework, start watching yourself. Watch how you listen. Do it with generosity for yourself and great intention for improving how you care for the people in your life that need your care. Start noticing that. Godspeed on your way through this terrifying, exciting, huge time.